Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. Thanks for tuning us in on the YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. You can see us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Racing Show. And on 93.9 The Ville in Louisville, Kentucky, every Saturday morning. Joining us now is a senior writer for the Bloodhorse. I think it's as good as it gets when you want to keep up with what's going on with the Derby. You get the Bloodhorse and you look at Derby Dozen by Steve Haskin. And Steve joins us now. Steve, thanks for being on.
Kenny, it's my pleasure. You're all over the place.
We are, you know. I mean, we're trying to put the fun back in horse racing. We had a guy named Lenny Schulman on the show. I believe you know him.
I heard.
Yeah,
I heard. By the way, I don't know if you heard the latest with his book. By the way, I had written a column, about being on pre-sale, and so I wrote a whole column about the book and about Justify. And he got a notice from Amazon, who he found out that they usually order like 12 advanced copies just to keep to see how it's going to sell.
Uh-huh.
In Lenny's book, they ordered 3,000.
Wow. The power of Steve Haskin. Look at Lenny Schulman should be buying us all dinner for the next month.
Aren't you even more honored to have me on now?
I don't even know what to say. Say something nice about us, and maybe like 4 more people will watch or listen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, but because we like to have fun with the show, and what I really like, I'm serious about this. I've always followed the Derby Dozen. You go into detail as to why, and this week Omaha Beach, I believe, has moved into the #1 spot. Is that correct?
That is correct. I only put them on there because I have a photograph of my wife standing on Omaha Beach on our honeymoon.
Wow. How about that?
No,
you're not that sentimental, by the way, Steve. I know you well enough. I know you'd never put anything in there for sentiment.
No. I'm sentimental, but not when it comes to the Derby Dozen.
Yeah.
But no, I really, I really fell in love with this horse when he ran second to Nolo Contesto in that maiden race, going a mile, and he finished 8 lengths ahead of the third horse. And I looked at him. I said, "This horse is something classy about this horse. I love the way he ran." And of course, it boosted. I thought Nolo Contesto was a terrific horse himself, and he still may be. But then when Omaha Beach came back and broke his maiden the way he did, I boosted him right up to #6, which I never do. I never put a maiden winner, especially in a sprint race. It's not like he broke his maiden in the mile and a 16th, but breaking his maiden going 7 furlongs to put him at #6. It's something I normally wouldn't do, but I just felt very strongly about the horse. And I made the ultimate move, as stupid as some people may think it may be, but I actually put him up to #1, call it my love for the horse. But I've just been taken by him, and I just think that for a horse that had never even faced winners before, to beat the champion, I know Game Winner ran a tremendous race, and I have even more admiration for him now than I did before. But to be the 3-time Grade 1 winner, Breeders' Cup winner, and the champion 2-year-old, having never faced winners, and if you watch the race, it's not like Game Winner was getting to him and was like by him 1 strike past the wire. Omaha Beach actually dug in. If you watch Mike Smith hand rode him.
Yeah.
The whole length of the stretch. And then finally at the end, when Game Winner moved up alongside, and I remember saying to my wife, "Oh, he's got him." You can judge where the wire is and whether the horse is going to catch another horse. And I said, "Oh, he's got him." He went to one left-handed whip and actually lost his reins. I mean, you can see his reins dangling. And on the close-up, if you watch Mike Smith's hands, he's trying to find the reins, and he's actually grabbing onto the horse's mane, looking to grab onto something. And that horse dug in and actually not only was holding Game Winner in the final strides, but he was 2 lengths in front, 10 yards past the wire.
I'm getting the feeling that you like this Omaha Beach.
I do, which is probably the kiss of death. But
I was talking earlier in the show about how I've always likened this time of the year to another madness month. You're talking about the
Yes.
NCAA tournament, because you look how strong's Louisiana, War of Wills there, and they'll be coming to Kentucky soon. But you look at Florida, who's good in Florida, who's good up at Aqueduct, who's good in Arkansas. We can't really say who's good in Santa Anita right now. Baffert, the big two, Improbable, and Game Winner come into Arkansas. I guess it looks like Baffert's going to take Game Winner back out to Santa Anita. But has it messed anything up, you think, with this whole Santa Anita? And it's just a tragedy for all involved. I'm talking horse racing, not just Santa Anita itself. But do you think this is going to be a factor with the way horses may have had to move around that wouldn't have, or training interrupted? How do you think it's going to play out?
I think it has to some degree, and if you look at it, here are two horses that are scheduled to race in their own backyard, and just train and walk out of their barn and walk right on the racetrack and run and go right back to their barn again. So what do they have to do now? First off, they have to delay their start a week. Not only that, but instead of racing, they have to travel all the way to Los Alamitos to train to have their final workout, and then have to ship all the way to Oaklawn Park. So, I mean, that's disruptive enough. But listen, both horses ran great races. However, we don't know the long-lasting effects of that, especially with Game Winner, because he had a very tough race coming off a layoff. And now, instead of having to come back in 4 weeks, he has to come back in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you really want to have him have that tough a race when he has to come back in 3 weeks. Improbable's got an extra week coming back. Now, I know Game Winner has more bottom under him, more mileage under him than Improbable.
Right.
But it's still a lot. He's also coming off a longer layoff than Improbable was, because Improbable ran in the Los Al Futurity. So how that's going to affect him in the long run, we really don't know. But, I mean, other than winning, Baffert has to be happy with the performances of both horses. I mean, Improbable ran so much farther than anybody else.
Yeah.
He probably would have had a much better trip if not Galilean breaking so slowly and then rushing up inside of him and keeping him 4 or 5 wide going into that first turn. And he stayed there and he rallied wide. But even in the stretch, he looked like he had the race won. And, if you look at the thoroughgraph numbers on Long Range Toddy, he's been running 8.5. I mean, that's not even in the same universe as Improbable and Game Winner and those horses. And here's a horse that's on the lead by a head going into the first turn, drops back to 5th and just sits there and comes on like a fresh horse with this incredible acceleration that I'd never seen from him before. And to run down Improbable the way he did, that was very impressive. I didn't think he had a shot to run him down. So, again, if you look at Improbable's pedigree too, we really don't know, 100%, from the sire. He's going to need help from the dam side on there, but we'll see how far he wants to go. But if he hadn't run so wide, he probably would have won the race. But that's pure speculation. But it was 2 great divisions, and it really added some clarity to the Derby picture.
And the Derby picture's cleared up each week at the Bloodhorse. Derby Dozen by Steve Haskin, who has Omaha Beach, Game Winner, Improbable, War of Will. You can read the rest, Long Range Toddy. That'll give you the top 5. But you know what I really enjoy about when you put the Derby Dozen in? I like looking down there at like number 10, number 11, like Spinoff with Pletcher's horse. And I like that. You know what I'm saying? I like to look down there and see, well, okay, you still got Mucho Gusto, kind of hanging in the picture, always mining. You got a question about. That's what I like, because I think maybe a lot of people will look at the top 4 or 5. It always interests me to go on a little deeper into it. I don't know how much fun you have with that as well.
Oh yeah, that's the best part of it. If you read a lot of the comments, and we get about 2,000 comments, a week, and if you look at the comments, you see how many people say and tell me also that the best part of Derby Dozen is the knocking on the door. They like to read all the little sidelight stories, the back stories. I put a whole bunch of other stuff in this week as well, a backstory on Omaha Beach and another little sidebar about owners, the difference in owners now as opposed to about the years ago and some of the old school owners that we have with Derby horses this year. So I like to put little things like that on there. Little things about, like when you mentioned Mucho Gusto, and he's running in the Sunland Derby, and I had to drop somebody to make room for Long Range Toddy, and I refused to drop Spinoff because he's running in the Louisiana Derby, and I don't want to drop a horse now and then have him win the race. And I know he's going to be a bit of a price in there, but I'm sticking with my guns on him. So I had to drop somebody, and I dropped a horse I really didn't want to. I dropped Mucho Gusto into the first spot after the top 12, and I explained why. Because he's running also next weekend, but he's running in the Sunland Derby. And unless a little twist of fate, who's an absolute super freak, at Golden Gate Fields on the Tapeta surface, unless he can translate that form onto dirt, we're not going to learn anything from Mucho Gusto. He should destroy that field. I mean, he's so much better. There's not much in there other than a little twist of fate, and we don't know about him. So even if Mucho Gusto wins the Sunland Derby and wins it impressively, we're not going to know any more about him. Plus, he will have a 6-week layoff into the Derby, so we really are not going to know that much. That's what I'm not crazy about this weekend because of that, and that's one of the reasons. No horse has ever gone from Louisiana Derby straight to the Kentucky Derby and won. We've had horses come out of the Louisiana Derby, like Funny Side, but that was when the Louisiana Derby was earlier in March, and he came back again in the Wood Memorial.
And then went on. Yeah, you always got that extra race in with the way they move schedules around. Is there a day goes by that you don't follow racing?
That's all I've got, Kenny.
Well, no, Steve. I have had the pleasure of having dinner with you and our aforementioned friend Lenny Schulman, and we have discussed things other than racing. Although I always enjoy the stories, and I know you kind of keep up on some.
Did I know what I was talking about?
Well, you didn't, but that's what made it so good. I don't think we just kind of.
That's why I think about racing every day, because there's nothing else up there.
Yeah, I was going to, because, it shows because you have to keep up on it. I mean, there's so many horses out there, and you never know where that horse is coming from, and that's what I think is makes it so interesting. That's why I love this time of year, and I like the stories. Like, I love the basketball, as you know. I love the NCAA basketball tournament because I look for the Murray States or the UC Irvines out there. And
there's always a VCU in there somewhere.
And VCU, I called one of VCU games this year. By the way, they're playing UCF in the first round.
Really? Yeah. My son-in-law taught there for 2 years.
I remember. You know what? I do remember that now. You told me about that. Yeah. And, people, and they like that. And I think that's what keeps it interesting. Just like, occasionally a Mind That Bird comes in there and they go, wow, I'm going to go out to the track because I could bet 50 to 1. People like that.
Exactly.
I think they do.
Yeah. And not only that, but like what you mentioned, you start looking around in horse racing on the Derby Trail and you see a horse is pointing for a particular race. And all of a sudden you look at the field that he shows up and you say, oh, this is the race I've got to run in now. I got to run against this horse. That's what Tom Izzo was doing with Michigan State. He said, "What the heck am I doing? Number 2, and what am I doing in there with Duke?"
Yeah, they got screwed. Of all the teams, I think Michigan State should have been a 1 seed. I don't understand how you could come from the second best conference and not get the 1 seed.
Exactly. It's just and I could see where Izzo was upset. But I'm sure you and all your cohorts will be pulling for Kentucky. I mean, they seem to be getting good now. Got a lot of big guys on there. So, but listen, they all have to stop Zion.
He's like in a different world, isn't he? Zion is almost, to me, he would be like, he's almost. They all use LeBron. Somebody asked me, said, what racing term who would you compare with? I said, he's like Justify. Every time I see this guy, he gets bigger and stronger, and he's like takes over the game and looks like he does whatever he wants.
He's somewhere between LeBron and Shaq.
Yeah, he really is.
He's just a brute. I mean, the way he gets up there and just the things that he does is just absolutely amazing. And you know what's scary about Duke is that the second best player is on the same team.
I know it. They're going to be 1-2 in the draft. So
yeah, exactly. So if you can't handle him, you got R.J. Barrett, and so it's very It's going to be very interesting. And that's why Tom Izzo is not a happy camper right now.
I don't blame him to have at least maybe the third, I think, best team in this whole thing, and to be having to go against Duke. At least we know. You don't think the committee thinks of these things, do you? Like Richard Pitino coaches at Minnesota. Coincidentally, they're going to be playing Louisville.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's just a coincidence.
Looking at and it's a play-in game, but if Buffalo gets by, Buffalo might be playing Arizona State, the Hurley brothers matchup. Gee, probably just a coincidence. I don't want to be a cynic about the pure sport of basketball, Steve.
You're right. Hey, listen, the thing is, when you look at these wild teams, that show up each year, the Butlers and those kind of VCUs and those kind of teams. I remember, by the way, years ago, Gonzaga was one of those teams.
They were. That's right.
Gonzaga. What kind of name is that? Where this team come from? Where is this school? Where they look? What country are they in? Now you look at them. They're a habitual number one seeded team. I mean, it's just amazing how they built that program. But you never know where a team is headed, when they are one of those outside teams.
Yeah.
And the thing about VCU is that VCU was one of the 4 teams that weren't even in the original 64.
No.
They had to get in to get into it. So they're even worse than a 16 seed.
Oh, at least we know in horse racing, eventually 20 will make it to the gate. There won't be seeding. Well, kind of seeding, yeah, because you got to win points. So yeah, I guess there's seeding along the way.
A lot of a lot of people still believe that they should have it the way they have it, like at Indy 500. That if you have the most points,
yeah,
you get first choice of what post position you want.
That'd be interesting. I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Would you?
No, a lot of people look at that. I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, let's put it this way. Let's say you have like 150 points going into the Derby. And you're number one, and the next horse has 80 or something like that.
Yeah.
Once the top 20, you're no different from the horse with 30 points that gets in as the number 20 horse. There's no advantage to being number one.
That's a good point, and you could get the NCAA involved in helping the seeding, and it'd be great.
Right, exactly. So I mean. There's always ways of improving everything.
We're talking with Steve Haskin. Steve, thanks for being with us. You've been a good friend, and I always love to read any of your stuff, really, but especially I like it this time of the year following the Derby Dozen. If people, you can get, of course, Steve in the Bloodhorse. Do you want them to follow you on Twitter? Does it matter? See, I follow you at one of your Twitter. You got more Twitter accounts.
Oh. Well, no, I don't have. Actually, I don't have any Twitter accounts
that's
anymore.
Not yours. That's not yours. The one that's you got a fake one, but people apparently like it.
Well, I had gotten off of Twitter, and then I gotten off and I discontinued my account, and then I was going to get back on. I said, wait a second, I just lost 18,000 followers. So I'm not going to start from zero again. I went on there. So I went on there just to be able to go on to read like the Bloodhorse or XBTV, but I don't post, I don't follow, I don't do anything. So I am there somewhat, lurking in the background there. But I am heavily on Facebook, and you can always catch Derby Dozen and my columns and photos and all kinds of things I post on Facebook. So either Facebook or bloodhorse.com. There I am.
He is Steve Haskin. He is Steve Haskin. He loves the ponies, and he knows his basketball. And thanks for being with us, my friend. We'll catch up again soon.
All right, Kenny. Always great talking to you.
Same here. Stay with us. More coming up on the Horse Racing Show right after this.